What's up, everybody? It's Ryan Petegrew here with Zenith Home Loans.
And it's Brian Cowdrey with Atlas Real Estate. So we're here to talk to you today about selling meaningfully, buying intentionally, and investing powerfully.
I love it.
Yes.
So Brian, we've been having some conversations about this market.
Yes.
I think about selling. I think a lot of that is because even whether it's the investing world, whether it's just a family and their primary purchase sale, right? I think a lot of that actually intersects, obviously.
Right.
But for the most part, I want to know when somebody contacts you about selling a house, what are the, let's say, 3 things that you go into that initial conversation or just that overall process and you look for as a listing agent?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most important thing when I talk about real estate with purpose and selling meaningfully specifically, we have to go in with options for sellers. Especially now, there's a lot of different factors to consider that we didn't used to have to consider, right?
For sure.
So a lot of people have a low rate on their house currently, and they just hate to give up that mortgage rate.
I sure don't.
Yeah,
I'm
nobody wants to give that up, right? I don't either.
Yeah.
So are there other options in there? My goal is to not go in and just say, oh, you want to sell your house? Perfect. Let's figure out a price. We're going to throw the sign in the yard and we're going to put it on the MLS. We'll do some marketing flyers and we'll see what happens, right? There's nothing wrong with that approach, but I think a lot of sellers, if you're looking to sell, you want to see what options you have going into it, right? And so what I do is I look into it and I say, let's lay out some different scenarios and look at it from that perspective. So one scenario is, what would it look like if you haven't thought about what would it look like to rent your place out? Is that even feasible? So let's run the numbers. Let's have an example of what that would look like.
Yep.
And maybe that's something that if you haven't considered, now you have this idea going in there like, hey, that actually might be a better place to put me financially to get me to where I want to be. Right. So that's the very first thing I'm going to look at and say, what would it look like to rent your house? Is that something you even would want to consider?
Yep.
Let's look at that and see. That may or may not be your best option. 2 is, if you do want to sell, what's your timeline and what does this need to look like for you and where are you going?
Timeline's very important.
Yes, exactly.
Yep, for sure.
So why are you selling? Is there a life event happening? That's very common, obviously.
Yep.
Jobs, kids, needing more space, less space, retiring. I mean, so many options, right? Why would you want to move? And so, if selling does make sense, then we also need to look on the buy side, right? So what is the overall plan that we're going into this with? And do we need to look at, do you want to look at selling off market? That could be an option, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes that is a good thing to do. Some people don't want to do the showings. Some people don't want to do that. So we talk about how we could sell it off market. Then we talk about selling on market, putting it on the MLS, what that would look like. And when you do that, say, here's the options for that. And, when we look at selling, I talk about meaningfully, meaning we have to be very intentional about how we're going to market, So let's look at your house, right?
Yeah.
And let's see, is there a good story that we can market with your house? What's the history?
Create some emotion,
Create
right?
the emotions, exactly. And why would somebody want to live here?
Right, exactly. And I think to that point too, a lot of people, I get this question a lot from my clients that I point them back to you, is it's like, should I be staging my house? It's a very simple question. I mean, what is that? What's your opinion on staging a house?
Absolutely. My thought is yes. And I just see it work so well so many times, right?
Yeah.
And not just yes for the sake of staging, but why would we stage it, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to stage it because what we're trying to do is create a buyer experience. We want somebody who can see themselves living there and get excited about it.
Exactly.
Right?
It's I mean, because you only get one shot at winning somebody's emotion over.
That's right.
Right.
You get one shot on the internet.
Right, exactly. You got to make good pictures.
You have good pictures in there.
Yep.
And you have to be intentional with your pictures too. That's the other thing.
For sure.
So everything has intention with it because we're trying to create that meaningful experience for somebody who's looking at it. So we're staging so that somebody can see themselves living there.
Right.
We're taking pictures in a way that's not just here's this room, here's this room,
right,
here's this room,
right.
But we're gonna create some good looking pictures that maybe we're just showing some of the finishes, maybe just a fixture or something like that, and not even the whole room, because we also, when you have somebody looking at your house and they're interested in it, you don't want to show them everything.
No, you got to leave a little bit left, right?
It's like there, a little treat,
right? Exactly.
Wow, I want to see more to help them come and see your house. So the pictures, staging gets them to come in. maybe there's a story there, like, hey, this area of town, here's why this is so amazing.
Yeah.
Here's why it's great for a family or great
Right.
for, somebody just starting out in their career, history there,
Right.
So we create all that. And then we also look at creating really good marketing materials. We want to have a nice flyer with a floor plan in there so people can say, oh yeah, like I can now see myself living here. What am I going to do? What am I going to do with this house? So they can start imagining how they're going to fix it up or, change things so that it can truly become theirs.
Right. All of those little things add up to the greater sum of if your house goes in the first weekend.
That's
if
right.
It's not, right? Obviously, pricing is a huge factor.
Pricing's
in that.
massive.
Pricing.
Yeah.
And so we can touch on that briefly. What is
Right.
your general thought about pricing? Do we want to list it a little bit above? Do we want to list it right at what we think it is? Maybe do we want to list it a little bit below value, like
Yes.
5 or 10K? What is your thought and why on that?
Great question. I think you got to look at comps, but
Okay.
it's not just about comps, right?
course.
So we have to look at comps. That's kind of listing 101 in
Yeah.
pricing, right? When you go through that. So when we look at comps, we get a general idea. But thing that everyone's got to remember is there's a range for housing prices. There's no exact value that your house is actually worth, because it's what it's really worth is what someone's willing to pay for it and what you're willing to sell for it. And when you come together in the middle, that's the value.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, I always use the eBay example. If I go list something for, if I have a baseball card that's worth $200 and I go list it for $250, nobody's bidding on that.
Yep.
You're going to get no traffic, right?
Right.
If I list it for what it's worth at 200, you'll get some more traffic, right? But people who probably, kind of know the value anyway and, may or may not be interested. If you just go a little bit below, what does that do? It drives
a lot of traffic.
Drives a lot more traffic.
It drives a lot of traffic, and it's funny because there's a duality in this market right now.
Yes.
That if a house doesn't go in a weekend, there's something wrong with it. And
Right.
then the buyers have leverage, they can ask for seller concessions, and you're actually walking away with less.
That's right.
And so it's almost kind of the flip side of really the general consensus of like what you're trying to do with your house is obviously make as much money. It's
Yeah.
like, actually, let's price it a little bit lower, because then we're going to have competition. Then we can be transparent about what all these offers are coming in. Everybody's going to start to try and outbid each other. Next thing you know, your house goes for more than even probably what you wanted to sell it for.
Yep.
That's the best case scenario, right?
That's right.
Obviously, it doesn't happen, 100% of the time, but that's a pretty
always.
dang good strategy.
It's a good strategy because there's a phrase for what you just said, right? FOMO.
Yeah.
I guess that's not a word. It's not a real English
I
word.
mean, but it's, I
it
wouldn't
might
be
as well
surprised if
be.
that was in the dictionary.
Yeah,
now.
but fear of missing out.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want them to have it. I need to get this. And we're not. It's not manipulating, or we're not trying to force anybody to do anything, but it's just setting you up well so you get the best
Right.
chances possible to get the most you can out of your house.
Exactly. And that's
know,
it. 100%.
That's all strategy there. So
Yeah.
that's what's so important.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
Right on.
The
All
other,
right. No, I was going to say.
I'm going to do one more thing.
Okay.
The other thing I think is really important for when you're selling a house is identifying who your buyer is going to be. So one of the things I come in with the options and saying, if selling's your best option, then let's identify your 3 ideal buyers. So we take a full look. We give them names, actually. So we say Sally, is just out of college and got a great job, and she's been given some money for a down payment.
Yeah.
And we think she would be a great fit for this, apartment building or this, sorry, not apartment, but like a unit,
Sure.
condo, something like that, right? Or a family, or what are their interests? So we really look at the interests too. And the reason we identify and create these buyer avatars, is what they're called, is because then we know how to market to them on social media, for
That's so
example,
smart.
right?
Yeah, it's
we can,
so smart.
We can be really strategic in Facebook marketing so that those buyers are going to see this and we're getting more interest into your property.
So good. Oh, it's so good. I love that. Haven't heard it ever phrased that way, and that's such a smart thing to say. I love it. That's awesome.
For sure.
So cool.
Awesome.
All right.
That's something I meant to include, so I'm glad I thought about it.
Glad you did. All right. So I guess now this is more you interviewing me type thing.
Yep.
So, we can even just keep this here and be like,
Let's do that.
I wrote
Yeah.
down some questions for you, Ryan.
For sure.
Okay.
All right, Ryan, let's talk about mortgages.
All right.
Okay.
That's my forte.
I think you know a little bit about this.
It says
So
Zenith Home Loans.
That's
back
right.
here. That's what we do.
That's
We're
right.
not just professional videographers. We actually do real estate and finance.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes. And very well, might I
Yes,
add.
thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you, yes.
So one of the things I know I struggled with when I first was getting a home loan
Yeah.
and applying and even multiple times, is I hear lenders talk about pricing.
Yeah.
There's lender credits, and there's, this is what pricing is today, and here's, pricing's better, pricing's worse, and we're always looking at the rate. That's kind of the initial thing to look at.
For sure.
But that's not all of it, right?
Right.
There's a piece of it. So I really would love for you to explain pricing a little bit more, and then how that impacts, what the mortgage loan process and what a buyer can afford.
Right. And I love this because this is something I'm highlighting a lot with clients right now because rates are high, right? This is a big pain point. Back when rates were at 3, everybody's like, great, free money, let's go buy a house, right?
Right.
We didn't have to dive into it as much. And so, when we talk about pricing, first we want to note that the fact that interest rates are tied to the mortgage-backed security market. That's mortgage bonds. And so it's not a static rate, right? We're not shopping for shoes and comparing a price versus Nordstrom versus Kohl's. It is an ever-flowing change in the market that could change. I mean, investors they do change their pricing based upon the market every 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So what I show a client in the morning could be different in the afternoon, so on and so forth. So of course I show them that urgency. So that's the first part we talk about. Now, pricing in general, it's like, how does an interest rate come about? There's really a handful of main things that we look at, right? One is going to be the loan type. One is going to be your credit score, of course. That's the biggest factor for the most part.
Right.
The other part is how much you're putting down, what type of property it is. Most clients don't know that actually a condo is going to have higher rates than a single family or a townhome.
That's a great example.
So there's all those different factors, a few more that go into what the pricing is going to be. And then essentially I click a button and it brings down all of the different investors that we work with. So of course, I'm just going to pick the one at the top that's the best. We click on it and then it's a pricing sheet. And so it's not that I'm saying, here is your rate. It is, here is all of your rates. I can get you whatever rate you want based upon how much you're willing to pay. And so we, of course, create a strategy that's tailored for a client based upon their goals. So if somebody tells me my biggest goal is lowest monthly payment, okay, great. Because they say that, maybe let's do a little bit more, a lower rate, a little bit higher fees. Right. If some clients say, you know what, I'm okay with a little bit higher payment. I just want to minimize my cash to close. Well, that's a little bit of a little bit higher rate with lower fees. And so we come to that conclusion together. There's break evens, right? So it's like, what is the difference in monthly payment based upon the fees that are associated between the different interest rates. And so that's pricing, right? And so when we say pricing has shifted, we just talk about how, hey, the market's moved, right? This morning, or this week, the market's been negative. It's moved every day. It's moving negatively every day. And so I wake up and I'm like, a little bit sad, but but that's the negative movement in the market.
I have to give bad news to my clients now, but
right. And so,
how it works.
And so and this is the biggest thing I tell clients is like, we want to stay in touch,
right? Especially
if we don't touch base in 2 weeks. Like there's clients that I, unfortunately, we haven't talked in a couple weeks and they're looking at properties now and the rates are a lot different. Because the market movement, it's not, and so we tell them we're going to lock in your rate when you go under contract. So that's how pricing works. That's the general basis of it. And of course it's different for every person.
Yeah. Can you dig into pricing a little bit more of how like lender credits play into that? What are you really paying for in pricing?
I mean, so at the end of the day, you've got, of course, what we would consider there is your base par rate. We call it par, but it's your no cost rate. You're not going to pay anything for it. You're not going to get any money back. For the most part, clients will maybe buy down their rate because we're in a higher interest rate market, but there is usually an option that you can actually get an even higher rate and get money back from the lender.
Gotcha.
So if your big goal is low cash to close, maybe you don't have as much money to buy down the rate, or you're okay with a little bit of a higher payment knowing we're going to refinance soon, rates come down, I can give you a credit. So let's say 7.5 is the rate with no cost, and we choose 7.625, and that gets you $2,000 back at closing. That might be a good option for a lot of, especially first-time home buyers.
Yes,
totally. It's great. And we it's funny you talk about that because there was a client yesterday that they thought they wanted the lowest rate possible. After we looked at everything, they're like, maybe we actually do the lender credit rate.
Yeah.
We refinance in a year.
Right.
The difference between the payment with no rate and the cost and the lender credit you get with a little bit higher rate, that break even's like 5 years.
Yes.
So if you stay in the loan for less than 5 years, the money you get back at closing because of the lender credit, that rate actually makes more sense, a higher rate.
Yeah.
And people are like, what?
Right.
Higher rate makes more sense?
Yes.
But that's just the strategy that's the conversation we have with every client.
For sure. Yeah. I love that. And I think that's so important for you to look at going into it, right? And helping somebody understand what's really going on behind the curtain, right?
Right,
You know,
right.
why would a lender, you know, give me a credit, and why would those things happen? You know,
Right.
they've got their formulas, right? They've got their analysis they're doing on
Right.
why they're offering what they're offering.
Yep.
But this is all in their calculations, and
Mm-hmm.
so, like you said, it changes minute to minute almost.
Yeah.
You know, all the time. And if you don't have someone constantly looking out for you, especially when you're very serious about buying and you're ready to go, you know, you're looking out for everybody's best interest and making sure that
Yeah.
just because this was the case today does not mean that is the case tomorrow.
Right.
You know, and you're going to really figure out what's best for them.
For sure.
So,
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I love it, man.
Thanks.
Okay, so I got some more questions for you too.
Okay.
When you're going to go under contract as a buyer,
Yep.
what should you not do? What's the most important things to make sure we don't mess with all of the work we've done up to this point, right?
I love this. I cover with every client, so I can name it right off the top of my head.
Yeah, I love it.
The first thing is don't go and deposit a bunch of cash in your account.
But why not, Ryan?
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
because it's not documentable, and you know, cash could come from anywhere. Basically, if you think about it from an investor standpoint, if you have a bunch of cash, mattress money, where did that money come from?
Right.
They're thinking worst case scenario, so they're thinking that you're like a drug mule and you have a bunch of money, right?
It's risk.
Right. It's super high. There's no documenting it, so that's dirty money,
Yeah.
right? But at the end of the day, just don't deposit cash without having a paper trail for where that is.
Right.
Not to say you can't do it. It's just there's a way of documenting it.
You gotta say why
Right.
you're doing it.
Exactly.
Yep.
The next piece is don't open up any new credit. And this, for a lot of people, seems like pretty self-explanatory,
Sure.
but there's always the story that runs around the office. Didn't happen to me, luckily. But there was a client that went out and after clear to close, they're like, sweet, I'm clear to close. I can go do what I want. They went and financed some furniture at American Furniture Warehouse, and it was 0% APR. So they're like, awesome, I don't have an interest rate on it. But
Right.
guess what? That was a nice chunk of cash that they now have a monthly payment on.
That's right.
And we monitor your credit all the way through the day of closing, right? So that unfortunately created some big hiccups. And
I bet.
they did close, but not with some sweat and
Makes
tears.
it harder.
Yes,
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
Usually we can figure out a way to make it work, but that's just a last thing that you never want to do, because as a lender, we're qualifying you based on your current debts.
Yes.
So, regular credit card spending's okay, but opening up new lines of credit, big
Yep.
no, don't do that. Don't go changing jobs.
Love it.
This happened last year to an LO. I can remember this vividly, where the client, once again, got the clear to close. They're like, sweet, I can quit my job. And they did not close because we do a verification of employment sometimes on the day of closing,
Okay.
just to verify you're still employed.
Right.
Right. And that actually, with VA loans, we have to make sure, crazy enough, that they're alive the day of closing. Right.
makes sense,
Active
right?
military, we have to call and make sure they're alive. So very much, same thing here
Sure.
with clients, is make sure that you have the money to make the mortgage payments. So those are really the big pieces. Obviously, as you're going out and searching for a home, just make sure that if you're doing anything that could change your finances, it could change your income, just consult your lender.
Totally.
That's the biggest thing, because sometimes things can work.
Yeah.
I just want to run it before we actually have to overcome that hurdle.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think that's a big takeaway, right?
Yeah.
At least if you're thinking about doing something, run it by you before you take any action.
Exactly.
Right? Because consistency is the key.
Yeah.
When you're trying to get
Right.
a loan as big as this.
Right. As my stepdad likes to say, safety is no accident.
That's right. It's not just a credit card you can apply for and get,
Right.
and you're good to go.
Right, and that's another thing too. Is like even if you don't open up a new line of credit, we monitor inquiries too.
Sure.
So if you go and open
Actually,
up,
that's a good point.
so
Yep.
if you go and get your credit inquired, now we've got to run around and document that you didn't open up a line of credit.
Right.
Not that it's going to make you not qualify. It's just going to make us have to run around and get documents that you may not have direct access to
Totally.
a day before closing.
And this process, it's not really that hard, but it
No.
has enough moving pieces that you don't need extras.
Right, exactly.
You know.
So that's one of the big slides I talk to clients about, because I want
I
to make
love
sure
that.
you have a
Yeah.
smooth closing.
Right.
Not that, hey, Ryan, you didn't prepare me for this.
And a lot of times it's unintentional. You just don't think about it.
Right.
It's like, oh, I thought this would be fine, but not really realizing there's implications there.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
totally.
100%.
Okay, here's another good question for you.
Yeah.
So we know if I'm going to go buy a house, I got to talk to a loan officer and see what we can do, right?
Yep.
What if I'm going to sell a house? Should I talk to a loan officer before I decide to sell?
100%. I mean, because I think this ties into what we were talking about initially with selling is A lot of clients think I have to sell, I need to get the equity out to go buy a new house. So we will do an analysis on our end. I've got an investment property analysis that basically will show me all the things that we need to know about your current house, cash flow, X, Y, and Z, because there are two options when we think about renting a house out and you buying a new one. One is do we need a lease in order for you to qualify? And then two, do we need money out of that house in order for you to qualify? So we look at both of those things.
Gotcha.
Right? If you don't need money out of that house, it's usually a shoe-in. Sure. In order for you to go and keep renting that house to go buy a new one, because inevitably most people have 80% of people right now have an interest rate that starts with a 2 or 3.
That's right.
So what you can get for rent right now is going to be more than what your mortgage payment is. So not only are you somebody paying down your mortgage, they're helping you pay for that new mortgage.
Yes.
Right? And so people don't think about it that way. They're like,
that's right.
So if I'm $800 positive cash flow, but my new mortgage payment's $800 more than if I would have had it for a down payment, but now we're breaking even and someone's paying down a real estate asset for me that's appreciating.
Yes.
Just switching that train of thought. So we want to look at all of that.
Right.
The other thing we look at is like, okay, we definitely need that money out of the house. Let's look at a HELOC.
There you go.
Right? HELOC rates are high right now, so that's sometimes the difficult part. But with all of that being said, we take into account what that does for cash flow too. If it makes sense, that's another great way for you to be able to keep that property. I never want to have somebody sell a house. I've never had somebody tell me 20 years later, man, I am so glad I sold that house.
I wish
My
I would have
dad,
never kept it.
Right. My dad looks at me and he tells me, he's like, one of my biggest regrets in life is just not keeping my homes.
Right.
Just continuing to sell real estate. And he's finally realized that because of where we're at. And so that's one of the biggest things that I've taken away. And I'm being in this business, trying to help clients do is just keep real estate, because it's, as you know, it's amazing retirement.
And that's why that's why when I go into that listing appointment, like we talked before, right? Like that has to be an option that's on the table.
Yeah.
That's what's in our client's best interest,
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that if, my best interest is to actually come in there and not even mention it, to be honest, and to say, let's get this house on the market as quick as possible.
Yeah.
Right. But I have to be a good agent, you need to give all those options. And I think, but the other thing is a lot of people don't think about it. Right. And so you've got to have somebody who can tell you and walk through that with you. And if you don't,
opening that door.
Yeah. Because had someone maybe talk to your dad, right. And said, have you thought about this, or consider this, or this is what that would look like. That could have changed so many things in his life.
Right. Exactly. I think it's just, it's a lot of people, especially our parents' ages and beyond, grandparents' ages, just go to college, get a great job, invest in your 401k, you'll have a nice retirement, you'll get some Social Security, and everything works out. Now, with this new age of availability to information, people are realizing that's not the best way to go. And it's I think people are slowly and maybe quickly at these days realizing there's just a lot more out there. If you look about it, I read a stat that between, I think it was like after the housing crash, so sometime in like 2012 on into now, that every single month in the Denver real estate market until last year it appreciated month over month. Talk about any other asset that's done that. There's no stocks that have done that. There is no other asset that does that. Now, once again, the market in Denver is starting to appreciate. We saw like a little bit of a couple percent decrease, and now we're back. So if you look at any asset and you zoom out long term, especially real estate, it's only going to go up. So why is that not a great thing to invest in and have somebody invest in it for you?
Right.
Exactly. It's not like you're consistently dumping money into your house. Obviously there's things you need to do to fix it up and stuff. But like my 401k, I'm dumping money into it and watching it going down and up and down and up.
Yeah.
Granted, people still dump money into their 401k because that's what they're told they're supposed to do.
That's right. Yeah.
But yet they're afraid to invest in real estate.
Right.
It's, and so it's people like you that create that door, and people like me that help out with that too.
Exactly. And why are you afraid? Because you just don't know. Right. It's about the knowledge around it.
Yep.
And as soon as you can get past that, and you like anything in life, right? Like you once you learn about it, any career you're in, it's always scary going into it.
Yep.
And so as soon as you get into it, you get over that hump and you go, that light clicks, right?
That was actually pretty easy.
This actually makes a lot of sense. This isn't as bad as I thought it was.
Right.
And that's my mission, to make sure everybody that I come across understands it's doable. You do have options, and you can do this. It's not this far thing that's out there it's unreachable. Yeah. You actually can do that.
Yep. Agreed.
Successful.
Exactly. You've done your job as long as you give them the information, and whether or not they choose to do it, then
then it's
and
exactly
hands off,
then
right?
it's all you,
Yep.
and it's and I'm still there to help you through whatever you decide.
Right.
But at least I can go to sleep at night,
Yeah.
knowing that I gave you your best,
Yeah,
options,
you had
and that
your
you knew
had their best interest at mind.
exactly.
Yep,
That's
exactly.
right.
Yep.
So I
Yeah.
love it. All right.
Anything else that we wanted to talk about?
Yeah, let's see. So we have a cheat sheet down here.
Brian came prepared today.
That's right. We're gonna do a fun game
'Kay.
that I came up with.
I
At least
love
I
this.
think it's fun. We'll see what everybody says. Comment below. We should say that more, right?
Yeah.
Comment, subscribe, right?
Yeah,
Do all
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
Smush the like button or whatever
Yeah.
we got to say there.
Maybe we can have like the
That's
like
right.
button pop up.
There's our
Yeah.
reminder for that. So yeah, let me know if you like this game. We'll do it more. But I thought it'd be fun to say, I'll come up with, hey, real estate is like something because, and then Ryan has to tell me why, and we'll just figure this out.
Okay, let's go.
All
What
right,
you got
ready?
for me?
Okay.
Yep.
Real estate is like golf because.
I think right now, you have to be emotionally strong
That's good.
with golf. Like golf is like, we call it recovery rate. How can you recover from that last shot? How can you recover from that last offer? Because right now
Yeah,
I work
I like
with
that.
a ton of first-time home buyers that are making a ton of offers. And of course you get emotionally attached to a house, you don't get it, and it's draining.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, it's same in golf. It's like, if you give up, you're going to shoot bad. And if you give up in the real estate market, you're going to sign another lease. And then a year later, look back and say, why did I do that? Right. Where in this market, if you just channel your emotions, and it's okay to get emotional about a house, be like, okay, next, right?
It's an emotional process.
It's
There's
very
no
emotional.
getting away from that.
There's no getting away
Yeah.
from that. If we can compartmentalize this a little bit and then just be like, look, that was the last house, but guess what? I'm going to stay persistent. I can tell you for certain right now,
Yes.
the clients that stay persistent always win.
Yes.
It's just how persistent
Yes.
you're willing to be. And same with golf. It's like, are you gonna shake off that bad shot and just continue to do it?
Right.
So there's my off the cuff answer.
I
for you
love
on
that,
one.
and I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Because those who stick with it, I tell my clients this all the time. Those who stick with it, it works out.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just got to keep going.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
work through it.
Exactly.
So,
All right. This is my turn for you.
Okay. Shoot,
gonna
I'm
think of
nervous
one
now.
here. Yeah.
It's my game, and now I'm gonna like.
Real estate is like making your bed.
Ooh.
Why?
Okay. Real estate's like making your bed. Oh my gosh, I don't even make my bed, so that's not
see,
good.
this is tough. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Next, no. Real estate's like making your bed because, man, this is a good one.
Yeah.
I should have thought about this before I came up with the game. Okay, real estate's like making your bed because it's about going about it the right way and making sure you got all the pieces in place so that when you're done, you get what you're trying to get
Okay.
done.
Yeah. Right. We're not leaving.
So,
we're not leaving like
yeah.
the pillows on the floor.
That's right. We're gonna look at it and
yeah.
say, okay, sheets go on first. We got to put the fitted sheet on first. What does that mean? Here's the first step we got to take.
I like that though. That's a
Yeah.
great analogy, right? We want to go one step at a time. I'm not going to go ahead and throw the pillows on the bed
You're gonna
without
throw 'em
any
on there.
sheets, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
I like
to me.
it.
I like
I
it.
like where I'm going with this. So, yeah, so you put the sheets on, right? So, what does that mean for real estate? You got to go in there and say, okay,
Yeah.
let's go figure out what we can afford if you're a first-time home buyer, right? Let's go in. What's the basic thing? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? I would call it what's your purpose and what you're doing, and start there, right? Now let's go throw some sheets on there. We got the fitted sheet on there. Let's go throw some sheets. So let's go talk to people. Let's go talk to people who can help us through this.
Yeah.
Then let's go, go look for what we're going to buy or how we're going to sell.
Yeah.
And you get all these pieces together, then you close, and then you put your pillows on there and make it look nice and make it your own.
That was great. You
Yeah,
spun
how
that
about
well.
that?
We're gonna come with some great ones next
That's
time.
right.
Now that we know we're playing this
I
game.
like it,
So
yeah.
hey, if you guys have any of these fun ones for us,
That's right.
please drop them below in
Yes,
the comments.
we need
please.
some ideas, for
Exactly.
sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Our goal here is to really make sure you're just educated on real estate so you know and can feel confident in your decisions moving forward. I like this. I think we're going to do this more often.
Yeah,
So hopefully
yeah.
you guys find this valuable, and super excited to come out with a new one, and let us know if there's anything else you'd like for us to talk about. See you
Cheers.
later.